Before I begin, I'd like to make a disclaimer. Even though the community of Fer.al is anti-NFT, this documentary will only be covering the facts and events and will be as unbiased as I can possibly make it. If anything, this is a warning to people who are into NFTs to stay away from this company. Okay, let's begin. Howdy, I'm Plu and everything's on fire. I made a brief video addressing what's going on, but I wanted to make a longer, more informal video addressing the situation. I began writing this on day 3 of the and honestly, so much has happened within that span of time, I decided to completely scrap that video idea I had before and focus on documenting the chaos that is the Fer.al community. For those of you who don't know, Fer.al is a 2-year-old game still in its early access stage. It's a very charming game with fun avatars, beautiful settings, and an overall amazing concept. This game has a lot of potential, and I suggest researching it if you get the chance. Although playing it, I'd pass at the moment. So what's going on? What's the tea? Why am I making an entire video about this when my channel has been dead for years? Great questions! Here's how Fer.al turned from a wholesome fantasy game into So there I was, mindlessly scrolling Twitter, when suddenly I saw a tweet from the Fer.al server, and I was stoked! Fer.al announced a few months earlier that they were stepping back from production to really focus on rebranding and improving the game, so seeing any info from them was a treat, so I looked into it. Hey Fer.alians, WildWorks will soon be announcing a new game that's blockchain based, so we'd like to take it. Uh-oh. Everyone absolutely lost it, and so did I. Not only because of the negativity surrounding NFTs, but because WildWorks literally promised us they were gonna focus on Fer.al. The post mentioned that there would be a Q&A with the CEO Clark Stacy about what's going on, so I just took a deep breath and told myself that it was gonna be fine. How bad could it really be, right? People are gonna be mad, but there has to be a good explanation for this, right? Right? The Q&A was incredibly long, and Clark formatted his answers terribly, so it'd be a little hard to explain exactly how much bull hockey was in the Q&A that day. But here's how the Q&A went for other people.
I was really mad the way he was just comfortable saying, "Hey guys, look, we made a NFT game, we know people are against it but we don't care." Clark's Q&A really surprised me, to say the least. The answers he provided seemed to contradict a lot of points the WildWorks team had said previously. But the biggest shocker to me was just how lazy it felt. Like, how the answers he provided were a little bit like a jab, as if he were making fun of us, specifically his response to the Matryoshka hat debacle. As a lot of people pointed out, it didn't feel very professional. I especially didn't like when he dragged his daughter into it and when he completely mitigated the concerns over cultural appropriation in his games by not answering about it. Honestly, I was a little surprised at a couple of the answers. Prior to that day, Clark had seemed not too bad a guy, but golly, he really should not have been handling his own PR. What I was most surprised about was Clark's repeated attempts to try and pitch Solana as not that bad, when it was clear that he just wasn't gonna win that fight from the beginning. The Q&A was hard to understand. At first, it was mainly due to the terrible formatting, but overall and especially later on it was just him ignoring big points. That's a very good idea, using a single source for his Solana research, Solana itself, etc. None of those effectively get your points across, especially when you're the CEO of a company. Clark's Q&A did shock me because of how he wasn't really even answering questions in the first place. He really just kept answering the same thing for every genuine question.
Yep, basically it went terribly. The next day was just exhausting. It was a hard hit on the community, but I was still hopeful. I made a video explaining the situation, but at this point so much has happened that it's basically outdated now. Here's how the community handled the day after.
Overall anger is an understatement. I have never seen any community act in so much rage before. Lots of slandering, corn, the whole 9 yards on a single man. Well, understandably we were upset. It pretty quickly turned into a major shitfest. It was a fun, albeit unproductive, way to protest the decision and WildWorks refusing to listen to us. If I'm correct, the admins extended chat cooled down to 30 seconds, I think 30 minutes was the day after that. Nothing came of it except for a few bans, but after a while, they gave up. Community reaction was pretty gosh dang sour, but it was still reasonably restrained. From my perspective, people were riding on the wave of this sucks and he's stupid. But he might just be bad at this AMA stuff. After whatever damage control comes, things will probably return to normalcy. I don't think any of them fully knew how bad it was gonna get, if they sensed it at the time they were ignoring it. The community was outraged. And rightfully so. WildWorks left us the next day, letting the moderation team handle all of the outrage. Myself, I was kind of shocked when the announcement first happened. I had been planning on recording a video for my own YouTube channel about Fer.al when I checked Discord and saw the announcement. It's safe to say I halted that plan for good. I was just shocked, and even more so when all the WildWorks employees logged off for 5 days. Seriously, what a way to handle criticism.
But you know, I still have high hopes. There's still time for all this to blow over. I'm sure that by next week this will all be a— oh my god, what is that? So we found the website, and it's just Fer.al. It's all just Fer.al. You thought we were mad before, but it wasn't even about the NFTs at this point. We were just straight up lied to.
We've been duped!
Duped!
Bamboozled!
We've been smeckledorfed!
That's not even a word, and I agree with you.
Wow, this is literally Fer.al. And yeah, everyone else reacted basically the same way, because it's literally Fer.al. It appears to be a direct clone of it. I hope I'm wrong, but they still haven't provided any actual gameplay footage. We also saw that Cinder had been built and tested for 2 years using another game, which all but confirms that Fer.al was essentially a beta test for Cinder, us players being the unwitting testers. The Cinder website angers me. It's literally Fer.al, just NFTs. I just feel so betrayed, as if all the fun I had was fake. I was pretty annoyed and surprised at how similar it was to Fer.al. Other people were outraged from what I could tell. They immediately started recreating the phase looks in the game. Shocked, Fer.al assets were just straight up advertised on their site. The main banner is a map in Fer.al. Obviously, most of the community shared my thoughts, and many even dissected the video trailer to label each and every map shown. Initially, at the announcement of Cinder, I was skeptical and intrigued. But, with the release of the website, I lost all hope I had. I really wanted to give them a chance, I really did. But not like this. Not with the game I loved so much just copied over to Cinder. I understand that WildWorks wanted to reuse assets to help make another game. I know this, I've helped develop games on Roblox before. This is a common practice. But only for the foundation. This is different. This is blatant copying. They could have at least developed an area that was not in Fer.al for the trailer. I wouldn't have minded if there were some assets reused, but they basically just showed Fer.al. They didn't even bother to remove the Cinder Knocked theme either.
This was bad. At this point, we had absolutely no idea what was going to happen to Fer.al. We didn't know what to believe. Clark clearly wasn't being honest to us, so why should we believe anything he says? We couldn't do anything but just panic at this point. This turned from a community being annoyed at a company's constant impulsiveness to— but I still wanted to try. I still had some hope that this would all blow over. There's no way that it could possibly get any worse. Day 5 was a little calmer, just kidding. We found their Instagram. And it didn't take long for it to turn into— I'm surprised the comments were turned on in the first place, but that didn't last long. Shortly after, we noticed that the negative comments were being deleted. So pretty much all of the comments were being deleted. I didn't screenshot the first comment that I made because I didn't know that they would go so far as to deleting comments. But it was along the lines of warning potential NFT investors how untrustworthy this company is. And not long after that, I realized that they took a step further and started blocking people that attempted to make another comment. I knew no matter what I wrote, they were gonna block me. So I made this comment, and not long after that, I was blocked.
Is disgusting. Employers in the community deserve to speak up and give their opinions, and how they feel about this is not fair at all. I'm not mad with the company, I'm a bit more mad at Clark and the other few staff that support this idea but wish the people under WildWorks could be free from that awful company. I find it quite pathetic. They've had our support and the fan base built around each game forever. So many children and now teens and young adults have marveled over their games and adored them. Now they suddenly show that our opinions don't matter and they will do whatever they want for money. It's quite cruel. Personally, I don't have any of those social media platforms, but I did see some screenshots of the posts people were sending. And the fact that people were sending corn images and getting blocked is goddamn funny, don't get me wrong. But unprofessional, on WildWorks' end.
At that point, I ran out of ideas. If we couldn't warn potential players about the game because they kept silencing us, what else was there to do? I made this comment on Twitter as my final shot for literally anything to happen, but of course the next day I was blocked. After almost a week of no communication from WildWorks, we finally got this announcement on the Discord. Of course, nobody was happy about it, but what I didn't know is that WildWorks admin was talking in the Discord, which never happens. So this part of the documentary, I won't have the best information because I didn't realize they were talking until later. But here's what I did find. Admin compared blockchains to basic necessities and then proceeded to edit the comment when they got called out on it. Fun. There were a few other things, but again, I wasn't there, so here's what happened from other people's perspectives.
I can safely say that us on the volunteer team were not the ones doing it. It was WildWorks, specifically the WildWork admin account. I was very surprised that after all of the criticism, all the things that WildWorks had done wrong, that they would shut down members of the community that were voicing their opinions. Banning Suda was the main thing that got my attention. That was a bad move on WildWorks' part. As for WildWorks silencing the community, I can't help but feel angry. We have supported them through and through. We have been patient and understanding when it came to bugs or general game development being slow, and actively participating in any of the social events that they would host on social media with a raging vigor and passion for the game and community. And despite that, they have decided that we can be silenced immediately, after lying to us about Cinder and Fer.al's development for the past few months. They are able to say anything they want because they have the support and money, whereas we don't get a voice at all when it comes to something that we have just as much credit for building. So, I was not there the exact moment the WildWork admin answer that killed the Discord happened, but golly, I've been enjoying the dumpster fire that began immediately after. I got in like 2 hours after it began, but by then it was already devolving into anarchy. There might have been hope to salvage the Discord then, but a bit later Seraph officially resigned and anarchy reigned supreme, irreparably. It's honestly been wild seeing how consistently mad people have managed to be for this long. It is a warming dumpster fire in these colder months. Yep. The notification bell was going off like crazy. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, WildWorks admin came in and started answering questions riddled with logical fallacies. Between everyone tearing them down and people leaving heartfelt goodbyes, it definitely felt like Fer.al had died.
And finally, if WildWorks didn't dig their grave deep enough already, they did a complete FU to the community by putting a 30-minute slow mode on every channel! This was the breaking point. It was at that point the mods spoke out about how terrible they were treated and quit. A lot of people I recognized said their final goodbyes, and the Discord basically died that night.
I was there during the death of the Fer.al Discord, and it was awful. I thought it was extremely depressing due to how many people were saying their goodbyes, and officially leaving the server and game behind right in front of the mods and admins' noses. And despite that, the admins only tried to continue to explain Clark's previous answers because for some reason a grown 40-year-old adult man couldn't show face and properly explain anything. The 30-minute slowdown on top of that was just another anchor to show that the WildWorks devs don't care in what we have to say for feedback, despite them trying to cover their asses with explanations. The server rioted more and more. WildWorks admin provided horrible answers and edited them. Or Clark released interviews. Users constantly commented and talked about what's happening. With the 30-minute slow mode, users ended up just contacting via reactions. The dystopia and then the mods stepping down or supporting the mob. Mods still having in training in their roles as they're promoted. It's an interesting sight to see. You mean when it devolved into copy pastas and corn jokes? Yes. Like I mentioned, it was funny and probably helped relieve a lot of stress from the situation, at least on our side. The 30-minute cooldown is ridiculous and we found ways to communicate anyways. It did nothing but fuel the flames of this dumpster fire. Frankly, WildWorks admin is an idiot. I'm not sure what else to say about them because they're just bafflingly unprofessional, incorrect, and plain dumb. That's all.
That was a rough night. Seeing the community be completely silenced by the company we all supported and believed in was hard. I and a lot of other people in the community were heartbroken, and it was at this point that my faith in this game being saved was completely lost. The main thing I want people to get out of this is to not trust this company. If they're that fast to throw away the Fer.al community that's been nothing but patient and supportive, they are bound to do the same thing with Cinders. By the time I'm done editing this video, a few things are bound to happen, so speedrun update! An article Clark wrote publicly called the community a enumerate online mob, and another word which I was informed not to repeat, so here it is on the screen, and then proceeded to edit it hours later. It has currently been 4 days and the 30-minute slow mode still hasn't been lifted. Another article came out saying that they were gonna stop the production of Fer.al if people stopped supporting it. The Cinder Discord became public and it is a disaster. And that's about it. Do with this information as you will. Also, don't be afraid to comment if I missed anything because oh boy, there's a lot. It's a shame that Fer.al is going out this way, but I'm grateful for the experience that it did give me. I'd recommend doing your own research on this whole thing as well. I'll be posting any updates on my Instagram story, so feel free to head there if you'd like more info as for what I'm gonna be doing after this whole situation calms down. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully this community will get better news in the future.